Chapter 8 of the Tale of Benny Badger. This recording is in the public domain. The Tale of Benny Badger by Arthur Scott Bailey. Chapter 8. A Watcher and a Worker. Benny Badger searched for some time before he found a ground squirrel's hole that looked as if its owner had finished it only a day or two before. The place was so far from the spot where Benny had left Mr. Coyote that he did not believe he could call loudly enough for his helper to hear him. For a few moments Benny thought that perhaps he ought to go back and tell Mr. Coyote that he had found a good place to dig, but he soon changed his mind. "I'll just begin digging and say nothing," he remarked to himself, "and perhaps I can catch this ground squirrel without Mr. Coyote's help." So he set to work, but he hadn't dug very far into the hole before he heard Mr. Coyote's voice close behind him. That sly fellow had been following him all the time. "I hope the owner of this hole is at home," Mr. Coyote ventured. At those words Benny Badger backed out of the hole and turned around. "I'll let you dig a while," he said generously. Mr. Coyote thanked him, but he answered that he couldn't think of accepting Benny Badger's offer. "I know you would be disappointed not to do the digging yourself," he explained. "And besides, you're a better digger than I am, so I'll let you tear this tunnel open, while I go around to the back door and watch. You know I have a very sharp eye." Benny Badger looked at Mr. Coyote narrowly. It occurred to him that both Mr. Coyote's eyes were very sharp. Furthermore, his nose was sharp too, and so were his teeth. Yes, on the whole, Benny thought, Mr. Coyote appeared to be an exceedingly sharp person. "Very well," Benny told him at last. "I'll do the digging gladly, for I need the practice that it will give me. You see, I haven't dug more than half a dozen holes tonight." Then he thrust his head into the opening he had already made, but before he had begun to throw more dirt behind him he pulled his head out again and called to his helper, who had moved a few steps away. "If the ground squirrel comes out through his back door, please call me at once," he cried. Mr. Coyote nodded his head over his shoulder and smiled. "I will," he agreed, "and I'll ask you not to forget to dig hard, because you know I'll be watching hard, and it wouldn't be fair for one of us to do less work than the other." Benny Badger replied that in his opinion Mr. Coyote's statement was in every way reasonable, and then he began to dig. Benny would have made better time had he not stopped every few minutes to listen, for he did not want to miss hearing Mr. Coyote's call. But his ears caught nothing more than a chuckle from the spot where Mr. Coyote sat on his haunches in the grass watching. "I can stand his chuckling, if only he won't sing," Benny said to himself. Chapter 8.